Welcome to vocabulary lesson number 9. This is your third video of 3 for your third overall vocabulary additional assessment. There will be 20 vocabulary words in this video, and there is 20 vocabulary words in each of the previous two. Therefore, you have 60 overall vocabulary words to learn. So let's go ahead and get started with these last 20. So your very first word is going to be ephemeral, which is an adjective, and it means short-lived, fleeting, transitory. So the beautiful bloom was ephemeral, only lasting a few short days, but beautiful all the same. So that is your adjective, and it describes something that is amazing and beautiful, but fleeting. So ephemeral is oftentimes used with fairies and unicorns, and in this case with a flower. Also, ephemeral is used to describe people, especially if they're people who tend to be kind of whimsical, but also not dependable. Alright, so our next word is relegate, which is a verb, and it means to dismiss to an inferior person. Let's take a look at the example. So courtiers and generals who incurred the emperor's disfavor were soon relegated to the farther reaches of the empire. So we see this this verb, relegate, to relegate, in use, relegated, and it essentially means to dismiss. And you're dismissing somebody who's an inferior rank. So we see here that courtiers and generals are an inferior rank to the emperor, and therefore he's relegated people of a lower rank to him. Alright, so that's relegated. Alright, our next word is an adjective, and it's futile, which means hopeless, worthless, useless. Well, that definitely has some negative connotations to it. So here we have the sentence, once absorbed into the Borg, the individual's identity is lost forever. This is why their catchphrase is, resistance is futile. So here we have the verb, or rather the adjective futile. If you want to turn it into a noun, it would be futility. And there you go. So futile means that it is hopeless. So to condone is a verb, and it means to forgive, to overlook. And there's also connotations of approval, where by forgiving and overlooking something, you're ultimately giving your approval of it. So here we have, as a queen and senator, Padme Amidala adamantly refused to condone a course of action that leads us to war. So she refused to forgive and overlook actions that would lead to war, because she felt as though if she did, she would be approving of such war. So again, this verb condone has connotations of approval to it. For our next word, we have tranquility, which is an adjective that means calmness. If you would like to turn that into, actually tranquility, let's fix this now. Tranquility is the noun. So here we have a noun, tranquility. Do you know what the adjective would be? It would be tranquil. So tranquil is the adjective and tranquility is the noun. So here we have the tranquility of the landscape was interrupted by the car speeding down the highway. So here we have a noun, the tranquility. If we were going to use it as an adjective, we'd say the landscape was tranquil. Alright? Cool. And it means quiet and peaceful. So next we have another noun, and it is dissent, which is disagreement. So here we have the seeds of dissent, a noun, was planted among the Avengers as it became less and less clear who could be trusted. So here we have dissent, which is disagreement. There's also connotations of distrust, and it is in fact a noun. If you want, you can use it as a verb, because dissented, to dissent, also makes sense. So here it's being used as a noun. However, it can also be used as a verb, where you might say, the child dissented from his father by eating another cookie. So it's the idea of disagreeing. So you can use it as a noun or as a verb. So our next word is conciliate, conciliate, which is a verb, and it means to soothe, to end a dispute, and to reconcile. So to conciliate, attempting to conciliate their conflicted past, Professor X and Magneto decided to take holiday in London together. It's adorable. So conciliate means to essentially reconcile contrasting ideas. So to end disputes, to reconcile, to soothe means to conciliate. All right? So our next word is incessant, which is an adjective, which means unceasing and never ending. So you might say someone is incessantly talking, such as here. The incessant chatter of Jerry drove April insane. He would not stop talking. So here, incessant is an adjective, and again, you can use it as an adverb by adding ly. They chatted incessantly. All right, and it means unending, not stopping. It's very similar to insipid, if you remember that previous word. So incessant and insipid are very similar. All right, so next up we have a noun, and it is disparity. And disparity means inequality and difference. So the gathered research made the disparity between hospital beds and the number of patients impossible to ignore. The hospital would have to be expanded to adequately care for people in need. So here we have both of these meanings in use. So the disparity, which means difference between hospital beds and number of patients, but we also have inequality, where it has connotations of inequality, where there's a sense of unfairness about the fact that there's a difference between these two things, and an inequality is occurring, where the people need more beds. All right. Next up, we have disparage, which is a verb, to speak badly of, to belittle. So here we have, you may remember back in July, a federal judge upheld a decision by the U.S. Patent Office to cancel the Redskins trademark protection ruling that it does not extend to names that may disparage people. So speak badly of, to belittle. So may disparage, belittle people. You can also see disparage as having connotations of offend, offending. So disparage is a verb, and therefore may disparage, may offend people, may belittle people. That's the way to look at the word. So disparage is when something harmful or insulting has been said about another or another group of people. So here we have conventional, which is an adjective, ordinary, customary, normal, traditional. It's similar to the word pedestrian, though there are some slight differences that are worthwhile looking up. So here we have, Desiree thought an espresso machine would be a conventional addition to the kitchen. However, her roommates thought it was a waste of money that would have been better spent on rent. So conventional, this is kind of going off with the definition of normal, traditional, and ordinary. The idea that this is a normal and ordinary thing to have in the kitchen. And then ultimately the disagreement saying that this is actually extraordinary and a unique thing to have, and possibly an unnecessary thing to have in the kitchen. So that's conventional. If you would like to turn that into a noun, you would change conventional into convention. But in changing that word, you are slightly changing the meaning. So a convention, which is the noun, is the way in which something is usually done. So do note that conventional, which is ordinary, customary, normal, traditional, in a descriptive manner, when you turn it into a noun, a convention, like when you hold a convention, it is an event that's held in a kind of reoccurring way. So it's a slightly different meaning. Definitely linked, but slightly different. So for our next word, we have rigor, which is a noun, and it has harshness or severity. And so while Shannon Miller's classes were not rigorous, she pushed herself to learn more than was expected so that she could succeed in her goals and dreams. So rigor is the noun and rigorous is the adjective. And here at this definition, harshness or severity, it is important to note that while this sounds like a very negatively connotative word, there is some positive connotations to rigor. So rigor is considered something that is made difficult, but oftentimes it's used in situations in which things have been made difficult in order to challenge people and make them better. So in this case, we see how this word can be used in a positive connotation, where her classes needed to be rigorous. Now she overcame that, but the idea of classes being rigorous is considered a good thing because it pushes students to learn more. So even though the definition sounds negative, do know that rigor tends to be used in a positive manner. All right, so next up, we have auspicious, which is an adjective, and it means favorable and positive, and it has connotations of being lucky. So here we have, as the storm receded to the ocean, Marie found it an auspicious sign that sunnier days ooh, wow, that's all messed up. A sunnier day was soon to come, or sunnier days were soon to come. And so here we have auspicious, which is a lucky sign, which is a good sign, which is a hopeful sign. So keep in mind that when you look at this and it says favorable and positive, you keep in mind that there are connotations of luck involved with auspicious. All right, so for our next word, we have universal, which is also an adjective. So existing or present everywhere. So music is a universal language. Even though Chow and Demi did not speak the same language, they enjoyed the concert together nonetheless, as music is a universal language. So it's ever present, it's shared, it's widely held, existing or present everywhere, that is universal. Alright, so for our next word we have fickle, which is an adjective, and it's unpredictable, capricious, and whimsical. So here we have the love between the planet and her satellite was fickle. One moment they would be happy together, and the next moment there would be tears and yelling. So do you know that fickle has pretty negative connotations? You would never use it in a positive manner. And so it's the idea that while unpredictable can be positive or negative, and capricious actually has positive connotations, and whimsical has positive connotations, fickle does not. Fickle has negative connotations. It means it's someone or something that changes in a way that tends to hurt or kind of make things more difficult. So please keep that in mind, that fickle tends to be negatively used. See, look at that unhappy face. That's definitely a bad thing. Alright, so next up we have furtive. So furtive is an adjective and it means secretive. So Isabel's furtive movements indicated that she didn't want to be seen by the investigating police. So secretive. Isabel's secretive movement. So keep in mind that furtive is an adjective, and it oftentimes describes a look or a movement or some kind of speech. So furtive speech, furtive movement, furtive actions, a furtive look. That's oftentimes how the word is used, and it means secretive in manner. Alright, our next word is a noun, and it's remorse, which means sadness or regret. If you wanted to change it into an adjective, it would become remorseful. Alright, so here we have Dean felt true and deep remorse over his betrayal of Sam. If he knew how, he would right this wrong. So remorse is a deep sadness. You could also say Dean felt remorseful over his betrayal if you wanted to change this into an adjective. Our next word is repress, which is a verb, and it means to hold down. So here we have Stanley's repressed childhood memories of his fish being eaten by the cat slowly returned to him, leaving him shocked and unable to trust. Poor Stanley. So repress is an adjective, repress is a verb, and therefore it has different tenses, and it means held down. Other ways that it's used, so repressed memory is a common way it's used, but you can also oftentimes hear phrasing such as repressing the people who have been repressed. That's another common use of the word. Our next word is gullible, which is an adjective, overly trusting, willing to believe anything. When the boys told Max about the Demogorgon, she was not only convinced that they were lying, but she was also insulted that they thought she was that gullible. So when someone is gullible, it's very easy to make them believe things that aren't true. So you might have said to someone, look, gullible's written on the ceiling, and then they would look and it wouldn't be written on the ceiling, and you would know that they are in fact gullible because they believed you. And so that is what gullible is. If you would like to turn gullible, the adjective, into a noun, it would be gullibility, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's gullibility. Alright, so our next word is respite, which is a noun, and respite is a rest, a pause, or a break. So here we have, after an onslaught of zombie attacks, they finally escaped to the countryside and enjoyed a moment of respite from the fear and the violence. So usually when we use respite, while it means rest, it's going to be rest from something very intense. So if you're describing something like a battle, or a very intense argument, or an intense court case, you might use respite. It needs to be a rest from something intense. It can't just be like a nap in the middle of the day. That's not how you would use it. Alright. So our next, we are done. That was quick. So those are your words. Now it's time to go ahead and practice. Good luck with your assessment. Thanks for watching the video.